Van Lee leads this episode of the Boob Tube Boys. We'll find out what the roles of Brian Vaughn and Spencer Hendricks are in a moment. But first, I just want to tell everyone, get the fuck ready for this episode, because it's going to be full of gators. It's going to be full of a brain that talks. There's robots and frogs. There's just a lot of shit going on here. Brian Vaughn, we said Van Lee leads. What does Brian Vaughn do in this iteration of the Turtles theme song?
Well, first off, I'd like to make it clear I'm wearing kind of an expedition-style hat, just so everyone gets a clear picture. But I would say, I mean, I'm probably out of this group. I guess I'm cool but rude, you know?
You are pretty rude.
Yeah, I'm always talking shit.
What about Spencer?
Hey, your socks look weird.
They are a little weird. Thank you for telling me. I'll be sure to get some better socks.
But it was cool how I did it.
Sure, but rude. Spencer Hendricks, what is your thing?
So I have a few thoughts. I want to say that the first movie that they made when we were about 7 or 8 or whatever in the early 90s really did a great job of making Raphael awesome. I don't really notice
He was real rude.
He was so mean and he had an attitude. And even the other turtles were like, fuck, don't mess with Raphael. He's in a bad mood.
And that's kind of more what I remembered.
And I don't really see that about him in these so much. But
he's more snarky.
Yeah, he breaks the fourth wall sometimes.
A little too Chandlery.
He does dumb things. But I do like Raphael because of the movie. Here, what I'm going to say is that I'm going to go with the turtle who I have the least. Well, I don't have anything in common with Leonardo either. That's also really boring. They all have their shtick, and Leonardo's a leader. That's not interesting. Leonardo's probably the most boring.
It's just like extroverted. That's his quality. It's like he likes talking out loud.
That sounds horrible. I don't like that.
And he does want everyone to get along. I admire that.
Well,
about
now
him.
I'm starting to think I have least in common with him, but in a good way, I admire what I don't have in common with Donatello, which is he's good with machines.
He does machines.
I don't do that stuff.
Like, machines?
I can't create and invent and use my hands to make magic happen. So
look,
I admire that in Donatello, and I wish I were more like him.
Are we wading around the swampy waters of what turtle we consider ourselves already? Okay, well, let's just talk about this now. Practically, somehow, out of this group of turtles, I would have to be a Michelangelo because I eat pizza. I'm not good with technology and I don't lead. And I'm not actually ever rude. I'm too scared to be.
We are all a little Michelangelo. The problem I have with that is we're not like, whoa, dude, party. Like, that's
no,
not
but I'm
us.
considering making the change.
Oh, you should. 2 weeks from now, after we're done with the Turtles and you come out like that,
yeah,
it's perfect. Now, I said Van Lee leads solely because I am leading these episodes. I don't really have a whole lot in common with Leonardo in that regard, more so than you guys, I think.
Probably.
But not a lot.
I don't want any of that, so you can have it.
I feel like I am more Raphael in the movie style, like the asshole nobody likes. I think I'm closer to that. But also I do party a little bit, and I do like to tinker and fix shit, so I got a little turtle in me.
You might be a little Donatello. I want to ask you guys, before we get into any further topics here, what do you think the turtles do when the evil Shredder attacks?
Do you think they're going to cut him a little slack?
I don't think so.
Really?
Not any slack.
I got a follow-up question.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to have an adjective for this giant kind of rat teacher. What might it be?
I watched the intro 3 times and still wasn't sure what they said there, so I just went by it.
Well, let me workshop this with you guys. You might buy into this. Hear me out. Radical.
I can't believe you said that. That's exactly what I was going to go with.
Okay, he's a radical rat. We know that now.
Well, the whole theme song, it bears a lot of fruit. I mean, there are little asides being thrown at you from turtles off screen.
Really let you know what's going on.
They do the staple that we always laugh about where they want to get into the characters' backstories in the intro. I guess that's just a thing everyone, even Ninja Turtles does that.
But this show does it really gleefully in a way that I don't know, it has a lot of charm.
It is charming, it's delightful, it's peppy.
I imagine you guys were immediately teleported back to your childhood listening to the theme song, because I sure was.
And honestly, this was an incredible experience for me. I've not revisited any turtle material in the intervening years. So, like, I left them when I was 5 or 6, basically.
And you've returned at 40.
No, let's go with what you said. And it felt great. I think a lot of times with the advent of the internet, I'm already kind of refamiliarized with stuff from my childhood.
Things pop up and you read a Wikipedia article and that sort of thing.
And other than kind of knowing the broad strokes, I didn't really know what it was like. So it was a lot of fun to revisit it. And I see why I would have liked it.
Well, a little bit of an explanation here. Last week when I introduced that we were doing the Turtles, I said we were going to do 3 episodes. We are. I thought we would split the second one in the middle. We're not going to do that. We've got a lot of pre-turtle stuff to do on this episode. So we're just covering...
Really stuck your shell in your mouth last week, didn't you?
I sure did. We're covering Season 3, Episode 30, Leatherhead, Terror of the Swamp. And then next week, we'll be covering Season 3, Episode 25, Corporate Raiders from Dimension X, and Season 3, Episode 36, Leatherhead meets the Rat King. It's a double Leatherhead excursion in the Turtles.
Yeah.
Guess what? It was a good idea and it was worth it.
Absolutely worth it. I would say the idea worked out to scale of what you hoped. I don't know. Gators, scales.
Yeah, it was right there. It works. And then also go check out the patreon.com/Bootu Inc. feed. It's all free on there. We did a bonus show where we ate some gumbo that I made. It's delicious.
It's appropriate that you said the Patreon feed after what we just did with that.
We gorged on
We had
that.
a Patreon feed.
By gumbo.
And then we also did real or fake Ninja Turtles villains. A lot of shit I made up, a lot of real Ninja Turtles villains. It's all on there. Go check it out. Like I said, it's free. You can leave us money if you want. You don't have to, but you can. Well, let's get into the Turtles here. I'm actually going to go do a little bit of background as to how the property was created. We'll talk a little bit about the cartoon, the comics, that sort of thing, and then we'll get into our episode.
Yeah, because on its face, this is a bonkers idea.
Pretty nuts. And the origin of it is a very farcical origin, as you'll see. It begins as a tale of a couple of guys who just love comic books. They want to make their own, and then it eventually balloons into a $1 billion IP that the Turtles is this day and age. It's showing little signs of slowing down. They're still making movies, cartoons, you name it, video games. There's a lot of Turtle stuff out there. But let's go all the way back to the very beginning of the Turtles. It happened in 1983. Friends Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird were artists and huge comic book fans. In fact, they not only cite Frank Miller, I'm sure you've heard that name, as a huge inspiration, they took a ton of liberties with Miller's work when they created the Turtles. The story goes, one night Laird and Eastman were watching just some garbage on television, and Eastman decided he wanted to draw what he considered, just a hilarious parody. And essentially, he drew a turtle. It was more turtle-like, standing on its hind legs, and had nunchucks tied to its front turtle feet. Now, it did have the bandana, and it was real goofy, and it was just a stupid thing. In his mind, he said, a ninja's the fastest thing you have, turtle's the slowest thing, this is hilarious.
Okay, that is kind of cool. I didn't think of it that way.
Me either. Never once occurred to me.
Interesting. I was the same way.
You acted all like, I drew that connection years ago.
Now, maybe you make Teenage Mutant Ninja snails, I pick up on it.
Well, Laird loved this, and then he put his own spin on the design. He anthropomorphized the turtle a little bit more. This led to Eastman then taking it a step further, and he drew 4 turtles, each with different weapons. Eventually, the duo decides they like this.
They don't have wieners, though, to be noted on the anthropomorphization.
Presumably. I don't know for sure. Now, if they were accurate to a turtle's dick is like the length of its body. They'd be huge.
Just like with people. That would be the most alarming thing in the world,
That's a
because
real-
no one could conceal that.
You guys know where I'm going to go with this, right? That's a real Richard Karn trait there.
Ooh.
What is the size of your body?
Well, eventually, like I said, the duo loves this. They think this is fun. They want to make their own graphic novel. So they did. After a loan from one of their uncles, the tax return, and basically emptying their bank accounts, the two wrote, drew, and published their own full Ninja Turtles comic book all on their own. They had no other studio help.
Pretty cool.
They, in fact, founded their own studio called Mirage Studios. They called it that because they didn't have a studio. It was in their living room. It was a Mirage.
Did Splinter help?
Well, more on Splinter later.
If you knew these guys at that time and they were like, we just went all in, like we emptied our finances, and they kind of showed you like the concept art for this, I realized it turned into something that worked. But at the time, might you have thought like, I don't know, guys. Like, I don't think this is going to go anywhere.
You're right, but specifically, we would have probably been like, fuck yeah, do it anyway.
Sure, yeah. At least you're doing your art.
Yeah, at
This
least
is
you're
great.
doing something.
Well, as for the story of the comic, which I'll get into here, they took heavy inspiration from Frank Miller's Ronin book. I guess that was a series, as well as the very first Daredevil comic. We know Daredevil, right?
Can't see, fights crime.
Yeah, he's like Ben Affleck in that movie. He's blind, but he can hear the sight. I don't know how it works.
And there's he's mentored, at least in the television show, by a man named Stick.
That is correct. And in fact, when they created Splinter, they did that as a parody of Stick.
Okay.
Stick is an asshole too in the show.
Is
Makes
he?
a lot of sense.
Splinter's not.
No, Splinter's a nice guy.
Hear me
Splinter
out.
might be stupid. We'll get to that later,
Oh,
though.
hear me out. I think he's radical. Do you agree?
Okay, yeah, I did think that initially, so I'll stick with it.
And I don't mean radical as in like, he's writing a manifesto in his
Yeah.
basement. Like, the only true race is rat hominid. But I mean radical is like, oh, groovy.
Yeah, if he was radical...
Like a Michelangelo radical.
Sure.
Michelangelo?
Michelangelo, that's his brother.
I don't know how that came out. Leave that in there.
Well, of course, there's, we said, the similarity between Splinter and Stick. That's what they named Splinter after because of the Daredevil comic. They also had, I guess in the original Daredevil comic, the titular character is blinded by a radioactive isotope. So in the world of the Turtles, after that happens, the isotope holder or whatever gets bumped into a kid who has his 4 pet turtles who then fall into the sewer and they become Ninja Turtles.
It's a real sweaty way to get there, but they got there. You know what, though? I like what we see in the show also in that once you know how the Turtles came to be, basically anything can be shorthanded into, mutagen, whatever. Now it's a big people animal.
And you don't know what effect it's going to have based on the character and the time that the episode they want to make happen. Could do anything.
Splinter, and again, this is the comics. I will explain there are differences between the comics and the cartoon, and you'll find out why. He was the pet of an exiled ninja warrior named Yoshi, who not dinosaur Yoshi.
Ring-ha!
This Yoshi was slain in front of Splinter's rat eyes, along with Yoshi's lover Tang, and I don't mean like the orange drink. It's just their name, Tang.
Well, it would be more disturbing if Yoshi and a glass of Tang were slaughtered.
That would be horrible. Well, the killer, in case you're wondering, is the treacherous Oroku Saki, or Sakai, a.k.a. the Shredder. So in the comic, Shredder kills the pet rat's human owner, I guess we could say.
So he's more effective than he is in the television show.
Have to be.
A lot more.
Yeah, he'd have to be.
Well, this was actually in retaliation for Yoshi killing the Shredder's brother earlier in the story.
Lots
they were
of
in
murder
Foot Clan
here.
stuff. Yeah, anyway, so there's a lot of that. And then, of course, Splinter gets free. So he's a ninja rat, and he's lost in the sewers of New York, but he's still just a rat. That's it.
A New York rat, but a rat nonetheless.
Those are some scary, those are the most formidable rats of all the rats, the New York rats.
That's why they call it the big rat pole.
In the cartoon, they changed the origin story to be that Splinter is Yoshi, but he came in contact with the mutagen as well as the Turtles did, and he became a big rat man.
Yeah, because we see him as a human form in the intro, and then he turns into a rat.
Which I had sort of forgotten.
I didn't remember that at all.
I think that's really cool. I love that scene where he's like, kicking the shit out of wood.
And then he's a rat.
And he's a big rat. Now, we'll mostly, like I said, be dealing with the history of the characters through the lens of the show, the 1987 TV show, as that's what we're covering. But it is worth noting that the comic book is significantly darker, as you've been able to tell so far, and far less goofy than the cartoon, which was made to sell toys.
And it worked.
Obviously,
I bought so many of those toys.
Oh,
well,
absolutely.
I didn't, but I had them.
What was your favorite of your Ninja Turtles toys? Do you remember?
Oh, I had all the huge set pieces. I had some kind of sewer thing. I had a pizza shooter. With the little pizzas that were just the right size of your mouth to swallow. And they would never make that now. I had all the action figures. I had everything. I can't remember a favorite. I used to play with those toys for hours every day.
Mm-hmm. I had a really big Donatello. Even though Leonardo was my favorite because of the swords, I had a 26-inch Donatello that I love.
I'm getting flashbacks. Cool. I feel like we talked about this because I had a Donatello too, and I used him to
prop up the door, right?
Yes.
This was like 40 episodes ago.
A long time ago.
And then I think I've brought this up 400 or 500 times.
Oh boy.
But my sister struck me in the mouth with a Ninja Turtle, flung it at me.
Do you remember which turtle it was?
It was Donatello.
It's always Donatello,
It did machines right in my face.
And I don't know if I mentioned last time we got into this, but I also did have a smaller, fluffy, stuffed Raphael that I actually had.
Cool.
Oh, I want that now.
I had him in my bed for many years until I was like, nah, I'm too old for this Raphael.
He was 33.
I want him back now. I didn't appreciate him when I was young.
One other change from the comics to the show was that each turtle had their own particular color. Of course, blue, red, green, orange, and purple. Almost like green. They're all very green.
That's their main color.
I tried to invent a fifth one, and when I was 6 or 7, that had a yellow one, and I forget. I made up a weapon for him and everything. I don't know.
That rules.
It didn't go very well. I tried to sell this to other kids, and they were like, "That's stupid. I don't like that one."
Eastman and Laird didn't call you back
I
on that
can't
one.
handle more than 4 of these guys.
There was a TV show that came out, I believe in the year 2000, where I was already way too old for it. And it was a live action TV show where they added a 5th turtle, and it was a girl. And I'm kind of grossed out to say this because I did think it then, but I was like, a girl turtle? That meh. And
Turtles
now as an
can't
adult,
be girls.
Exactly. But I was so mad about it. But she had like a teal bandana.
Oh, I like that color.
That show didn't last very long.
Well, people were too busy. 9/11 probably did. That was a big factor in why the Ninja Turtles didn't work. The reboot, I bet.
That's precisely it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the comics, they all had red bandanas. They didn't have different colors. They were distinguished by their weapons. The guys ended up sending out their comic with press kits. They sold comics at conventions and local stores. But most importantly, they put out an ad in the Comics Buyer's Guide magazine and ended up selling all of their original 3,000 copies. And they had a bit of a cult following right out of the gate. The next order for the second edition was 15,000, and it was 30,000. So the comic was just going crazy. Eventually, the duo of Laird and Eastman met with Playmates Toys, who were interested in creating a line of action figures from the story. These are the ones we know and love. But one of the conditions of the deal was that there needed to be a cartoon to go along with the sales of the toys. After making a ton of concessions about the story of the Turtles, like Splinter's origin and the cowabunga bullshit and all that stuff, eventually they released 5 episodes of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon. Took a few times to take off. Once it found a good slot on a good network, boom, kids loved it. The toys sold like crazy. And this thing was off.
Now, how did Eastman and Laird feel about this sort of iteration taking hold and becoming kind of the culturally dominant form of the thing they created? Because I could kind of see it either way. It's not like if you're making a show for kids from what they were doing before, you can't do the same thing at all anyway.
Well, they were notorious for saying how much they hated the cartoon. In fact, Laird said in 2012 on his blog, quote, "Had I been making the key creative decisions for that first animated series, it would have been very different. Among other things, there would have likely been no moronic henchmen like Bebop and Rocksteady,
those are cool,
who were
though.
created for the cartoon. They were not in the
I
comics.
like them.
The Shredder would have been seriously malevolent. April would not have been a reporter and constantly need to be rescued by the Turtles. The Turtles would not have been so ridiculously obsessed with pizza. And the Shredder would not have had as one of his businesses a restaurant called Ninja Pizza. And then the show would also not have had a gag or joke every 5 seconds. So clearly they didn't really like the cartoon aspect of it.
The elements that were always going to have to be there if you produce this as a toy selling show.
Yes, but the two did decide that no matter what, we'll agree to this cartoon because we'll always have our comics. We can always go back to that. And well, also a fuckload of money. There's that too.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
In the year 2000, Eastman sold his stake in the franchise to Laird, who then in turn sold the property to Viacom in 2009. It's all a Viacom production. I think they brought Laird back on for a little while for a show, but for the most part, they're done with it. Oh, and by the way, the duo of Eastman and Laird were sued by Buffalo Bob Smith, aka the host of the Howdy Doody show, because apparently they had a character named Chief Thunder Thud, which I believe I've mentioned this show before. He used the word cowabunga as a greeting. It was a racist Native American character, by the way. That word then itself caught on amongst the surfers of California in the 60s. So eventually when it goes to court, they just settled with the guy for like 50 grand.
Because this is like a common use thing at that point. You can't be like, I had a radio program in the 1930s where I said the word cool. And now people use it all the time. I'm going to sue them all.
Other changes from the comic to the cartoon involved the Shredder becoming the main villain. In the comics, he was killed in, I think, the first episode, but very early in the run and never heard from again.
He kind of sucks, so I get it.
They, of course, added Bebop and Rocksteady, like I said. They removed a significant amount of the violence. There was blood, there was gore, there was death. In the Turtles comic, that's not present in the cartoon. The Foot Clan, which was actually a parody of the ninja clan The Hand from Daredevil, they were turned into robots in the cartoon. That way it'd be okay to use their weapons on them. So that's why if you see a lot of these cartoons, the characters don't really beat up the humans, but they did in the Ninja Turtles because they were robots. Just kill them, slice them in pieces.
It's kind of like how in Marvel movies you see a lot of spectacle and explosion to cover the fact that you can't reckon with the fact that Captain America just like disemboweled a guy with his teeth.
Why not? That'd be pretty cool.
That would make it a very different thing.
All right, let's talk voice cast to the show. This thing is loaded with talent, particularly in the voice acting sphere. Let's get through the Turtles first. We have Leonardo. He is voiced by legendary voice actor Cam Clark, who is tied on the show for appearances, appearing in all 193 episodes. Now, before I continue on Clark, I can hear it in your heads. Van, what do you mean he appears more than everyone else? Do the other Turtles not appear in some episodes? Nope, they were in every episode. But the thing is, after this show started to succeed, they cranked up the episode count and were pumping them out so fast, sometimes the voice actors couldn't be there to record, so they had other people record for them.
Did I ever notice that as a kid? When I get up before school to watch one and it was not the right voice actor, whole day ruined.
How could they even want to do that? That's like the most bankrupt decision you could make. Nobody will notice.
Well, and in fact, our very first episode, the one we're covering today, has that happen. The Shredder is not voiced by his actor, and neither is Donatello.
Yeah, which it's funny because I did notice there was a difference, and Donatello was specifically, but I didn't know, like, well, which one of these is, like,
No,
this guy?
it wasn't a big deal when you're watching it in this fashion, but when it was the central part of my morning growing up, that's upsetting when I hear my beloved Turtles. I want to say it was Donatello when I was watching it too, all these years ago when I was like 8 years old, and I just felt betrayed.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, that is not him. You can't do that to me.
Well, I mean, you can't just like, I think I'll rewatch Mad Men. This used to be John Hamm, but now it's Joe Pesci.
Oh, okay, that'd be cool.
Just the voice, though.
Oh, okay. It still looks like John Hamm. Yeah, what are you doing? I'm John freaking Hamm.
Yeah, I'm fucking hot. What are you gonna do about it, Betsy?
Well, this is also why the first season of the Turtles was 5 episodes. That was a test run. The second season was 13. The third season, 47 episodes.
Oh.
All the ones we're covering are from
Here's an episode every day.
Different animation studios were working on the show at the same time, and that's why you'll see weird differences from episode to episode, and also a lot of bad animation.
They just really started mass marketing it. They didn't give a shit anymore about the product. They're just like, let's make as many as possible.
All right, anyway, back to Cam Clark. I say he's legendary as a voice actor. He has voiced the following characters: Leonardo and Rocksteady in Ninja Turtles. That's what he's doing here. Shotaro Kaneda in the English dub of Akira. That was a very famous anime show. And of course, his turn as the villain of Metal Gear Solid, Liquid Snake.
I don't know how I didn't see that coming.
You were getting excited, so I suspected you had an agenda, but I did not know it was that agenda.
That's right, he's Liquid Snake. That's right, brother. You got the dominant genes while I got the recessive ones. Genome army.
Liquid Snake sounds like a bit of a 25% more evil Rick Thomas.
I think that's about right.
That's kind of the voice, yeah.
Well, and next week, I'll point out a voice that was Liquid Snake in the Ninja Turtles. It was the exact voice he used. Next up is Donatello. He was voiced by Barry Gordon, who has written and acted in Hollywood for many, many years. He has appeared in the original Dennis the Menace series in the 1960s as a kid.
Man.
He's been in Love, American Style, Tarzan, Lord of the Jungle, which, by the way, is Spencer's stripper persona, Archie Bunker's Place, The Smurfs, The Jetsons, Darkwing Duck, Empty Nest, SWAT Cats,
Empty Nest,
ER, Becker, Curb Your Enthusiasm, and Brian's favorite show, Caroline in the City.
Empty Nest, though, I'm stuck on that. He probably met David Leisure then.
They're probably friends.
Yeah.
I mean, he's been in the industry forever. David Leisure was in that one Touched by an Angel.
He's everywhere.
Same thing. Raphael's up next, and he was voiced by Rob Paulson, who's another very famous voice actor. He's been in things like The Animaniacs, where he voiced Yakko Warner, as well as Pinky the Mouse. And of course, in Pinky and the Brain, he was Pinky.
Wow, so he was all over my childhood.
Mm-hmm. He voiced Carl Weezer in The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron, if you've heard of that. I don't know. Boy Genius, that's part of Jimmy Neutron. And of course, he played Gray Fox, a.k.a. Frank Yeager, Solid Snake's best bud.
Oh, wow.
And the ninja in Metal Gear Solid 1.
This is like Christmas morning for you.
Oh, it's delightful. He kind of simped on Solid Snake. Like that. I think Gray Fox had a thing for Solid Snake, but Snake maybe reciprocated. I don't know. But anyway, they had to fight.
I had to do a little giggle there when you said his name, because I got a little Fight Club reference in my head when you said his name is Rob Paulson or whatever. Something like that. Or
Robert Paulson.
His name is Robert Paulson.
Oh,
It's a good Fight Club moment.
I haven't seen Fight Club in years. Michelangelo is the last of the Turtles to mention, and he was voiced by Townsend Coleman. And yes, that is his name, Townsend Coleman.
Two last
Townsend Coleman. It's hard to say.
Sounds British.
Townsend Coleman.
Well, British, and he's like, oh, dear, like, totally.
Yeah, I'm actually from Scotland, but because of my accent, everybody thinks I'm from London.
Another prolific voice actor. He voiced the Tick in the Tick cartoon in the 90s. I love that one. He was a bunch of characters in the Mass Effect series. You played that, right, Spencer?
Oh, yeah.
Let's see, also side voices in just about every cartoon that exists. He voices Canard in Mighty Ducks, the animated series, where they're not just kids playing hockey. They're actual, like, ducks.
What?
Playing hockey and solving crimes, I think.
I didn't know about that.
I didn't know it,
this?
but I'm not surprised, and I like it. I approve.
And those movies came out, and they're like, Emilio Estevez.
We got to capitalize now.
April O'Neil is the sexy yellow jumpsuit wearing reporter and redhead, and I say sexy, and I fucking mean it.
Yeah, it's a problem.
It is a big
for
problem.
Kids' TV show.
She was voiced by Renee Jacobs, who's an actress who had a few roles, mostly is known for her turn as April in this show, but also as additional voices in My Little Pony.
I imagine they were horse voices.
We have Peter Renaday voicing Master Splinter. He's been involved in a ton of video games, animated projects, Star Wars The Old Republic as random characters, Fallout New Vegas as someone named Dr. Henry, some cartoon called Cats Don't Dance, which I disagree with, being dances all the time.
Yeah, I've seen it.
And of course, as Richard Ames, who was part of the Patriots in Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. Lots of Metal Gear people
Yeah,
here.
that's serious background.
2 more cast members to point out here. We have yet another prominent voice actor, Pat Fraley. He shows up as Krang, and Casey Jones, who we'll cover next week. Baxter Stockman, who we don't see, who's a big fly.
Yeah,
like a
so
Jeff
he plays
Goldblum
all
fly.
the normal style characters.
Sure, the real ones.
The down-to-earth, kind of everyday, everyman.
He does the Krang like, no, Splinter, and it's gross. I don't like it. He also appeared in WWE Slam City, Brian.
What is that?
It's some cartoon show, movie. I don't know.
They made a cartoon about WWE.
Yeah.
Is Sheamus in that too?
Probably John Cena's in it.
He probably is then.
Dragon Age Origins. He was in various Command and Conquer games, and also Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Wow.
Next, we have the voice of Shredder, who's Mr. James Avery, who's most well known as Uncle Phil in Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. And I love this guy. He's awesome. He passed away in 2013 due to complications from open heart surgery, but has also appeared on L.A. Law, The Brady Bunch movie, and Closer.
And interestingly, is far more of an intimidating presence physically than Shredder is.
Yeah, if you would put Uncle Phil there, I mean, I would have wanted out of this, especially if I was DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Sure.
You know, he gets thrown out the door. What is his name in the...
I don't remember.
Is he just Jazz
That sounds
in the
about
show,
right.
maybe?
I think so.
But that's also the name of that Transformer that's kind of racist.
Also a wrestler from the 90s.
Oh, yeah. And again, James Avery is not in this episode. We have a different voice of the Shredder. Finally, we have a guest actor for this episode. This is a guy who's not in every one. And it is a legendary voice actor, Jim Cummings. We've certainly had him on this podcast before. He takes on the role of Leatherhead, and oh boy, does he nail that role.
I think I see what he was going for.
Cajun.
Mm-hmm.
He has also voiced Winnie the Pooh. He's always been the voice of Winnie the Pooh. He was the voice of Darkwing Duck, Hondo Ohnaka in various Star Wars projects.
Christopher Robbins, you need to help me in my forest.
I guarantee. Let's see. Cummings also voiced Pete in the Goof Troop universe. Ultimately, 35% of the voices you've heard over the last 40 years in cartoons, it's this guy.
Goofy, I'd love to be part of the Goof Troop. I love the idea that he just always does that voice.
The Cajun voice. Well, apparently he grew up in New Orleans, so he would know how to speak Cajun.
I mean, I guess so.
It sounds so over the top, though. When you hear it, it's like, surely it's not that brash.
To be fair, I've never encountered an upright bipedal alligator with a Cajun accent.
Oh, I thought you were just going to say I'd never been to New Orleans. But no, you took it a different direction than that. Have you guys set foot in the Big Easy personally?
I have not.
Nope.
I haven't.
I'd
not
like to,
not
though.
anywhere near.
I think it'd be fun.
Go there and get some gumbo.
I've been in Louisiana.
I've always wanted to do a podcast from a different place. We could do Boob Tube Boys Go to the Big Easy.
I like this. We'll do it on Mardi Gras.
People throw beads at us and we'll have to flash them.
We'll be the Boob Tube Boys for that night.
All right. Well, that's it for the cast. Let's go ahead and get into this episode. Next week, we'll have a different cast member for a special bonus character. Oh boy, he shows right up. But with the Ninja Turtles, there are no cold opens. They don't do a little gimmick and then get into the intro. They start you out with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Because this is a show made for a generation of people drinking Coke when they were 4 and being shoved in front of TVs because all of a sudden all Americans work all the time. And we demanded TV that did not stop.
Give me my Chef Boyardee and my some kind of cartoon and I'm happy.
Yeah. Give me some cereal with Surge poured in it. Turn on the Turtles.
And I mean, this intro is probably the most ingrained in my brain.
Yeah.
Any intro
There's
ever.
no question.
We learn all about the Ninja Turtles, like we mentioned at the top of the show. We find out that they're the most fearsome fighting team, that they're heroes in a half shell.
And they're green.
And they're green. And it sounds like a pitch meeting. It's like, well, they're heroes in a half shell and green.
It's like the last part of you're setting up a list of persuasive arguments and you finish on that one. You're like, and they're green.
And green. I know it's just a little thing, but it is a nice touch. Do you think that they were, when they were composing the song, that they didn't know what to do with lyrics and they actually just pulled the notepad out with all the pitch ideas and just said them out loud.
Maybe the guy singing it realized that his vocals weren't going to fit, so he was like, I got to add something else here. And he's like, and they're green.
And cool and good.
Now I want to hear that version.
That's the drunk version they started with. There is also the topic of their particular personalities. As we know, you want to appeal to kids, so you highlight the 4 personalities of kids out there. We have boring-ass good boy leader,
Boo.
snarky asshole, stoner, and nerd. Those are the 4 personalities.
You find out which of those 4 you are very young in life.
Very, very young. You know
And you're stuck
exactly
with
who
that.
you are.
At 6 years old, like, I'm a stoner.
But that's not all that the song uses to classify the turtles. What it says, and I'll skip around a bit here for a reason, Raphael is cool but rude, and then he throws a pizza at the screen showing how rude he is, but cool because he's eating the pizza. Michelangelo, you guys want to know, he's a party dude. And he does some disco dancing, and he yells, "Party!" And that's how we know he's a party dude. But what of the other 2 turtles? Well, the song tells us that Leonardo leads, and then it shows us that he leads by having him point somewhere.
With the sword, right? Or is it just...
He's in both out, and he points with one.
One can imagine Moses with the sea parting.
With his sword, pointing out his Moses
Yeah.
sword, the sword of Moses.
Yeah, Moses was trained by a rat in a kimono.
I believe it.
What is God but a rat in a kimono in the sky?
Well, Donatello, on the other hand, doesn't lead, he doesn't party, and he's not cool but rude. He does machines. And he shows us that he does machines by making a very convoluted, massive machine.
It's
to
just a
make
contraption
tea.
of some sort.
It's like a Rube Goldberg thing,
Yeah.
but then it explodes. So he's not good at making, he just does machines.
They're very elaborate. I'll give him that.
Maybe that was just his first try. He'll get it.
I point this out to say that, you know, it's a little goofy way to describe Donatello, but having watched, I don't know, a dozen of these episodes, it's accurate because he constantly has a new machine. Half of them are catapults.
And he is a type of guy. I think they
Nerd.
were prescient in this. Well, a specific kind, though, that's always like, here's this new device. Let's talk about tech, baby.
That's what I was saying, is it's so not me that I
same.
find that personality type at least interesting, whereas
Sure.
Leonardo is just boring.
Yeah, I can learn from them because I don't know anything about this stuff. I'm a man of the arts and the podcasts.
All right, so after learning all this stuff from the theme song, you still might be confused about what you're watching. So the theme song, make sure you're aware of what's on your screen. It says, and I quote, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtle Power,
If you didn't know before, you know now.
and Turtle Power.
I like how when they show the episode title card, there's always a turtle by a brick wall, like he's about to do a stand-up set or
Mhm.
something, which I kind of, like Seinfeld, I kind of wish they had done that.
Turtle stand-up.
Yeah, Michelangelo, you ever notice when you're at the airport that pizza's more expensive, dude?
Well, I mean, don't you just hate standing in line and stuff? Well, on that title card, which, by the way, this time says Leatherhead, Terror of the Swamp, although it doesn't have a colon in there, and that bothers me. Just says that all together. Stupid.
He may have requested that, Leatherhead.
It is written by Michael Reeves, so I think we need to give Michael Reeves a call and say, good job, you nailed this one. The only problem I have is that the title card has Michelangelo, except he's holding Leonardo's swords, so there's a bit of an animation mistake here, but whatever, it doesn't matter. But that comes up on the next 2 episodes, so keep that in mind. The episode proper begins with Raphael having a bit of nostalgia as he skims through an old photo book. It mostly just has weird pictures of Rocksteady and Bebop in it, but it also has a picture of 4 Hawaiian shirt-wearing mutant frogs. These guys actually appeared in the previous season, season 2, and are known as the Punk Frogs, because everyone knows Punk like to wear Hawaiian shirts and
Real
shorts.
weird time in America, a brief segment when punk meant a different thing. It just meant like young person.
Okay, fair point.
It shouldn't have. I mean, there was still punk music. It just wasn't popular.
I did, in fact, watch that episode, the first Punk Frogs episode, and in it, basically Shredder asks Krang for some more mutagen. Krang sends it via the Technodrome, which has an eyeball, and it misses.
And we'll find out about that, too.
Oh, much later. It misses and lands in the Florida swamp, and there's like this kid who has 4 frogs. He throws them in the swamp. They become the big frogs. Shredder finds them, and then he's like, I'm a good guy. Be my friend and train with me. And they're like, all right, that sure seems like a good idea. And that's how they talk.
They really do talk like that, like all punks.
But anyway, then they all fight, and it gets cleared up. But they did have an adventure with the turtles previously. Their names, by the way, are Attila, Genghis, Rasputin, and Napoleon Bonafrog.
They really went all out. I will say I like that it kind of parallels the turtles having,
Totally. Yeah, it's the exact same concept.
Well, this is what Shredder did. He said, just as Splinter has named you after whatever, I will name you after my favorite historical figures.
And his are meaner people.
Rather than artists, they're tyrants who murdered people.
Now, I do need to switch gears for a second here. Whenever I host an episode, I do my various research using documentaries, books, whatever I can find. But most importantly, wikis come into play. Read a lot of wikis. The Turtles have something called Turtlepedia, which did give a ton of good information on the various episodes and really did help me out as I went through this. But on Turtlepedia, there's a comment section. You can create a profile, leave comments based on whatever page you're on. I went to the Punk Frogs page because I wanted to see if I could figure out which one had what weapons. Couldn't figure it out.
See if anybody from Rancid commented on there about the punk ethos the frogs were displaying.
But I would like to read you the main comment on this page. This is from Punk Frog Lover. They say, great backstory. Love these growing up. I don't know what I'm doing with my life, but I'm trying. This long post honestly helped me escape reality a little bit. Kudos to the brother who wrote this. Oh yeah, by the way, I know whoever is reading this thinks I'm a man. I'm not. I'm actually a girl with boobs.
I wish I'm actually a frog.
Now, I know pointing this out sounds like a lie, but I'm actually not. I'm just a little fucked up in the head. Just a little crazy. If you don't believe me, comment back and we'll link up via Facebook or something. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Also, sorry for mentioning the boobs. It just felt right. It just seems like someone who would be reading this long frog post would get a boner from the word boobs.
Was that true?
I mean, I did.
Okay. I just had to find out.
Okay, I just hope someone reads this. Also, if you are reading this, I hope life is treating you well. This also sounds like a lie, but I am not on meth. Again, just a little weird. See ya.
I think she's on meth.
Signed, Dawn Pierce's daughter.
Well, someone responded. The Punk Frogs actually responded. Their account name. They said, definitely got a boner from reading boobs.
You should do it in the frog accent.
Definitely got a boner from reading boobs. You were wise. And then Pookie Panda said, same bro. And that's it. Those are the only comments on this page.
I think that's a pleasant interaction all the way around.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if we necessarily would want to invite any of these people on the podcast.
Probably not.
But I'm glad they're doing well.
I like that they all interacted with each other in a nice way.
It was pleasant. And usually that doesn't happen online. But also just being like, I'm a girl with boobs. Okay, where you be a girl without boobs?
Well,
That's
she
fine
could have had a
too.
mastectomy.
Like Tig Notaro.
Yep.
All right. Anyway, the Turtles just recount the plot of the Punk Frogs episode as they're thumbing through this photo album, just like I did, even though they, of course, themselves were there and don't need to repeat it to themselves, but whatever.
It's also a really funny device, and the show points it out a lot, but
it's campy.
To be like, oh, let's look at the photo album and so we can have a way to remember people who will be in this episode.
It's also noteworthy that Raphael is horribly embarrassed that he's looking through these photos and being nostalgic.
It's not cool to be nostalgic.
No,
yeah,
that's
you're
just
supposed
not
to be like,
Raphael.
I don't care. I hate my memories.
But Donatello being like, do you guys remember the Punk Frogs and that time that Shredder found them and named them? It's like, come on.
That was like a year ago. Yeah, I remember that.
The show then pivots quite suddenly to the swamps of Florida, where some old Cajun man and his little illiterate boy are canoeing around.
I was hoping they would be characters the whole episode.
Sadly, they're not in it for much, but let's just hear what they got to say.
Gator hunting slim in this swamp, Paul. Maybe we better go back to Louisiana.
What, that old Leatherhead somewhere in these waters, boy. He's the biggest gator that ever got born. I'm not leaving till I catch him.
So what happens next, Spencer? They catch him and they go home with their trophy and everything's fine, right?
And that's the end of Leatherhead,
That's
yeah.
it. It's done. Wrong!
Yeah, that's not what I saw. That's not what I saw at all. I saw Leatherhead fuck their shit up.
Yeah, well, Leatherhead pops up and he's white in one scene, like albino, but then also green in another. I don't know. He pops up, he bites the canoe in half. The man and child promptly then row their way back to Louisiana, as they say.
They have to leave the state because Leatherhead is such a badass.
I think they should get even farther away.
You think they should go to, like, well, I don't know, Texas?
Tibet.
I'd go Canada.
Oh, okay. You're going
all
north.
the way out of there so that he can't get you. I don't think Leatherhead would go to Canada. Too cold.
I don't like dealing with Mounties.
You know how fast they went? Lickety split. One of them says that. But then Leatherhead, the normal but really big gator that ever got born, walks up on land with the oar from the boat in his mouth, like he chomped it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking.
For some reason, he begins to glow and then just in an instant goes whoop and becomes like man alligator. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, mutagen.
Real ripped, too.
He's also nude.
I didn't know Leatherhead was that jacked.
And he works out. He does a lot of reps in the old swamp gym. You guys think that sounds nuts, but you might remember that Baywatch had gyms on the beach.
Yeah,
That's
they did.
true. So a gym in the swamp is not too far of a stretch. And I could see him like lifting weights to working man.
Yeah, and the weight
Working gator.
is a boat oar with 2 buckets of crawfish on either side, just to kind of keep him in character, because he is always living up to the full height of his character's Cajunness.
He buys into the territory and the accent and the hat and everything.
You guys feel like maybe they were a little heavy-handed with it? Is that what I'm getting?
I didn't
sense
say
of?
A
that.
heavy clawed.
I didn't say that at all.
I noticed that they really were afraid to go more than about 2 minutes before he got one of his lines, one of his Cajun lines.
Jambalaya guarantee.
Jumping
he's got
jambalaya
a
or
lot going on.
Well, the screen does this whole weird wavy thing. So it's like they're imagining and it goes back to the turtles. The problem is the turtles weren't there for that. They were there for the punk frogs thing. So I don't know, weird storytelling.
Maybe that
thing.
was for our audience our benefit, to kind of gel us back into the real world after seeing something so jarring and amazing.
Well, Donatello wonders aloud whatever happened to the punk frogs. I wonder what they're up to. Michelangelo says, "Let's have a bodacious time for the swamps." It's too much. As a kid, I loved it. I can't stand Michelangelo in this.
He lays it on thick.
With our boy Leatherhead now on the scene, we can take a quick break. When we get back, we'll find out what nefarious deeds the gator is up to.
Turtles, heroes in a half shell, turtle power.
Right after Donatello gets finished saying, "Well, I wonder what the frogs are up to," we cut to the frogs, whom Michelangelo said were having a great bodacious time in the swamps of Florida. They are busy running away from Leatherhead.
No, you skedaddling frogs. You don't be escaping from old Leatherhead.
And you don't be.
Yeah, so if any of you who have listened to this podcast for the past few years were thinking that we were being ridiculous in our descriptions of how Leatherhead talked, we were not.
I think we were subdued.
Yeah.
Well, one of the frogs then says, "Run faster, fellas. He's right on our tails." And the other frog goes, "Well, that's impossible. We lost him when we was itty-bitty tadpoles."
Pretty good.
Frog humor.
Fun
all
little
right.
frog joke.
The frogs eventually do try to fight back against Leatherhead, but he says, "You frogs be plenty pitiful." And then he beats him up a bit and laughs the whole time. Rasputin the frog fires an arrow. He has a little tiny bow and arrow. That's his weapon. And but it's not like an arrow.
And because it couldn't actually hurt Leatherhead. You have to be
Right.
creative and do like another Rube Goldberg style trick with it.
Yeah, it just happens to have a net in it. And you carry this with you at all times. Does he have real arrows or just net arrows?
I mean, I don't think he's a killer.
You don't know. You don't know. There are a lot of people disappear in the swamps, Brian.
Sometimes, when I'm broke, I'll do one for a contract.
I'm the best assassin in Florida.
I really like a psychological profiling Rasputin the frog. I just don't think he's got it in him to kill a man.
just doesn't seem like the Rasputin I know.
Well, he fires his net arrow and the net comes down and captures Leatherhead briefly. But the other frog looks at him and goes, "Good shooting, Rasputin."
Ooh.
Yeah. I didn't know his name was Rasputin yet.
So you thought that was just like a
little
cutesy
thing he was
term?
saying, yeah. I also found myself right here already rooting for Leatherhead.
This reminded me of how, and no one agrees with me on this, but I ended up appreciating how they wrote Walter White in Breaking Bad so bad that I was like, I want him to get away with everything because they had done such a good job crafting him. Leatherhead, I had the same experience. I was like, yeah, I want him to come out of this successful.
And very similar, I felt myself like kind of at least empathizing with how Leatherhead got to this position. Look,
Yeah.
life deals you, whether it be terminal cancer or whether it be you're a gator and you got mutated into a man gator. You don't know what life's going to throw at you, and you have to roll with those punches. And sometimes to get by, you have to bite families in half.
Sometimes it's good to just see the little guy make it. And that's
He's
what's
pretty,
happening.
He's pretty
here.
big.
Well, I mean, big little guy.
Oh, I get it. Okay. You mean metaphorically.
Well, Leatherhead does break free from this net almost
How
instantly.
tall do you think he is, by the way?
7 feet.
At least. Yeah, he's big.
I feel like he's right on there with Gargantua. They'd be eye to eye.
Gargantua is 5'11".
In the actual show, yes, it was, but he was
But
listed
the
at
gargantua
17.
they told us about. Big, tall gargantua.
Oh, yeah, the myth of Gargantua.
Well, Leatherhead uses the net that tried to capture him to capture the frogs. He throws it on them, and they're stuck. They're done. The scene transitions, and we find out that the gator's plan all along was to trap the frogs and make them slaves for life, which he then confidently reminds everyone that those gators live for hundreds of years.
I liked that detail, where he's just kind of reminding him, not only are you under my forceful employ, you will never escape. And his idea of what to do with them is very, very much like an emperor king or like a sultan's
He's
idea.
just so lazy. He's like,
Mhm.
I'm just not going to walk anymore.
Yeah, see, they have like a stretcher that he's on, and each frog has one end of and they're carrying him around, like Brian said, like an emperor.
They're like caravanning him about the swamp.
I thought that was a nice, charming touch, though, because the second he gets the power, what does he do? He just wants to rest.
I imagine if he'd had them kind of under his control longer, he'd have them making meals, stuff like that.
Well, he's got his hands behind his big old gator head. He's that relaxed. And he says, look, if you guys think you're going to escape, don't even fucking try it. My crawfish clamps will ensure that you can't get away even if you want to. And like I've often said on this podcast, he uses crawfish, crawdads as weapons.
It's a lot like what Parantis Head does.
It's pretty similar, except he squirts with them,
Ugh.
which Leatherhead clamps and snips and so forth.
And not all Parantis Heads can squirt.
Just if they're worked up enough.
Right.
All right, then. Leatherhead's a little bit sleepy, so he just says, I'm going to sleep. And he starts snoring for a while. The frogs take this opportunity to pull out a turtle shell cell phone. Did I say that right?
Yeah.
Turtle shell cell. That's hard to say. And he calls the Ninja Turtles, who they're still busy looking at the photo book.
I think it was through U.S. Cellular.
I tried to do Sprint, but it wasn't going to happen.
Sprint.
We got Sean Connery on the podcast.
What if he did Sprint commercials? That's right. Buy your next phone line. That's Sprint.
I bet you're tired of making all your phone calls from your stupid poor person house. You woman who stays at home all day. This is what he would say.
Yeah.
That all changes the second you sign up with Sprint. Then you can make a call from Sawdust.
It'll be easier than ever to find Forrester when you call him using your Sprint cell phone.
You could be a secret spy and call Q whenever you felt like it.
I really want to see the Sprint commercial now.
Join the League of Extraordinary Cell Phones. All right.
Medicine Man.
All of this just crammed in that 30 seconds of Sprint airtime.
Sean, you can't just say stuff you were
He's
in.
like, I'm done. And they have to use the footage. It's all they have.
We can't tell him he's Sean Connery. He'll just leave. He doesn't even need the money. Entrapment.
All right. Well, the frogs get a hold of the turtles, and Rasputin tells Leonardo that they need help.
They do.
They really do. Well, how long will it take you to get to Florida, Ninja Turtles? And Donatello doesn't ask why or what the problem is. What he says is, where are we going to stay when we're in Florida?
That's the only problem here.
That's it. But Michelangelo pipes up and says, April O'Neil and Irma Langenstein. He doesn't say their last names. He's familiar with them. I just wanted to say it for clarity's sake.
And he wouldn't be the one that would remember their last names.
They're conveniently vacationing in Florida, so we can just barge in and crash with them. Let's ruin their vacation. Meanwhile, underground inside the Technodrome, Krang, Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady are busy watching the Florida Channel on their big 80-foot television.
It's called the news.
And Krang goes, oh, so this is what a Florida swamp looks like. Like he wondered all this time, finally gets to see it.
Well, this is widespread internet.
He goes, well, wait, what's this? On the screen, the big brain with a face sees a massive alligator being carried around on a stretcher by a bunch of frogs.
Love the idea of turning on the TV. What do we have here? Looks like some scenic. Oh, well, this is different.
Alligator in Cajun clothing being carried by frogs in Hawaiian shirts.
Krang's not that shocked, though.
He's more blown away.
He likes it.
He's like, look at this awesome sight. After realizing that the gator has captured the frogs and made them do his bidding, Krang demands that Shredder go all the way down to the swamp and enlist the help of this gator, but Shredder doesn't really seem too keen on the idea.
A half alligator, half man? What do we need with a freak like that?
Well, Krang explains that if Leatherhead was able to capture the frogs on his own, think about what he can do to them turtles. Actually, think of what he can do to those bothersome, and I don't know if I should be using this word or not because it sure feels like a slur. Krang says, those bothersome shellbacks.
Yeah, I don't like that either. It
Not
just
a fan.
doesn't sound good.
The turtles have then arrived in Florida, and at the hotel/resort April and Irma are staying at, Donatello explains everything to the two characters, and while April joins him with the rest of the turtles deep in the swamp, Irma just screams something about swamps being icky and flees back to New York. Couldn't she just stay at the resort?
She just doesn't want to deal with this. She heard one thing about Leatherhead, because I think that is what it was. They're like, there's a gator that's bigger than people. And
That
she
would
said,
chase people
I'm
away.
getting out of here.
Mhm.
And I would also probably leave.
The turtles and April then kind of wander around looking for the frogs in the swamp. Suddenly, they're snatched up by a giant net attached to a tree like a snare, like in Return of the Jedi.
Lots of nets in this thing.
It turns out Leatherhead set this trap because he's also savvy when
He's
it comes
clever.
to traps. He threatens the group with the hearty, "You come in here, but you ain't never gonna leave. I guarantee."
That's verbatim.
No, that is. I wrote the words down. I didn't make any of that shit up. I couldn't.
He often wants to let people know their future is death.
Your fate ends in my mouth. And then the second part is he guarantees it. And the third part is he fucks it up.
Yep. And doesn't mind, though. Doesn't mind continuing.
He's actually pretty good-natured.
He's very cheerful.
There's something about him that reminds me of an older man we all used to work with at the bowling alley. A certain seated figure named Larry.
Okay, yeah, a lot of tooth, but no bite.
You know, he's a sweet guy underneath
Sure.
it all.
But occasionally he screams at you and says he's going to turn you into gumbo.
Sure.
Well, April says, "I never thought it would end like this. Hanging in a net, captured by a mutant alligator. But I think, honestly, that's how I'm going to go."
I assumed that. That's what they told me in church as a child. If you sin, you end up in the old Leatherhead in the sky.
But fortunately for the turtles, the frogs are nearby and they decide to help. So whichever one it is that has a battle axe for a weapon, maybe Napoleon, or probably makes more sense to be Genghis or Attila. I don't know.
I couldn't tell.
Probably Attila. That's a fucked up person.
Well, you know, and I should clarify, these aren't battle toads. These are punk frogs. Battle toads have battle axes.
Longer legs, though.
Mm-hmm. Anyway, the one throws the battle axe and it cuts the net open and causes the turtles and April to land on top of old Leatherhead, who then struggles to get to his feet and yells at him a bunch. Now, the big gator keeps throwing a fit, threatening to turn the turtles into swamp stew, but Leonardo basically hangs Leatherhead from a nearby tree, and the group discuss what they should do with this crotchety reptile. Elsewhere, a big drill pod pops out of the ground near a beehive for some reason, but Shredder gets out, Rocksteady, Bebop get out. Shredder chastises Rocksteady for missing the coordinates, calling him a mutant mutton head.
He is the bulk and skull type. That's what Bebop and Rocksteady
Yeah, they're
kind of
very
are.
bumbling and they're not very good at their henchmen.
To this
jobs.
show's credit, no Blink Blonk music, and this is a cartoon.
I mean, essentially, this would fit right in with Bebop and Rocksteady.
You guys have a preference on the two? I'm a Bebop man myself.
I'm also a Bebop man.
I think I'm more Rocksteady, but that's good because that'll spread it out a bit.
Bebop looks so cool.
Yeah, he's got the nose ring and then like the
weird glasses?
whatever his hair is pretty
Mohawk.
cool.
Mm-hmm. But Rocksteady's a rhinoceros, and they're big and horns.
I can't deny
He's not
it.
very good at navigating though.
No, certainly not. My problem with Bebop is because he snorts a lot because he's a warthog.
Well,
and I don't
you
care
guys
for
just
that.
don't get along.
Well, we've fought over everything: restaurants, podcasting.
He likes to eat more like bugs and stuff, and you prefer pizza.
And gumbo.
True.
We're big gumbo fans now, thanks to Leatherhead. Do you think Leatherhead would have approved of that gumbo?
I think
Oh,
he would
yeah.
have enjoyed it. There was some meat in there.
Yeah, that's true.
I guarantee he would.
Garon. I noticed he hits the O really hard in his
Guarantee.
guarantee.
Well, this beehive goes off and it chases Shredder, Rocksteady, and Bebop into a pond, and Shredder's mad about it. And that's that. The turtles, frogs, and April are now walking through the swamp with Leatherhead tied up behind them. The frogs reveal it's only about 12 miles to the nearest city, where they can then turn the gator into the authorities.
What are the cops going to do with that?
There's no jail cell that can contain him.
The whole precinct would probably leave out the back door.
I just picture them selling him to one of those swamp carnivals where the guy feeds him raw chicken and makes him jump out of the water. I'd go to that.
I won't do these tricks for no audience. I ain't no jumping gator.
Donatello does ask to take a break because he has some really bad blisters since he doesn't wear shoes, and they're all pretty much nude.
Bad move. But he never wears shoes. They should have tougher feet.
You would think. Maybe calloused and gnarled.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Green, obviously.
Weirdly, that's how my feet were as a child because I was always wandering around outside barefoot.
Yeah, I did
It's
too,
the
and I don't do
opposite
that
of
now.
yeah, no, I would never do that now.
Even though now I think my feet are better equipped for it because they're old and gross.
Sure, they're gnarled. Well, everyone here just bitches about how awful Florida is. That's basically what's going on. Michelangelo complains about the mosquitoes. One of the frogs then eats a mosquito out of the sky with his frog tongue. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, where are my manners? I'm sorry, where are my manners? I should have let Miss O'Neill have first crack at eating a mosquito. Wah, wah.
Everybody knows April's too hot to eat mosquitoes.
Mm-hmm.
He only ate one, though, and I know there's some animals that can eat like a lot of mosquitoes.
What kind of animal?
I'm not sure about the specifics. I may have forgotten.
I think they're called Draculas. No, it's what they are before that. Bats. They're going to get you.
How many mosquitoes can they eat a day?
Up to a pound of mosquitoes a day, Spencer.
Wow, that's amazing.
Sounds familiar.
Such a good fact.
It's a lot of mosquitoes. It's on our website, bootuinc.com. You can find it there. Go check it out. With Shredder and his two monsters now wandering in the swamp, Crank decides it's time to buzz in, ask what the hell's going on. Where's my mutant gator? Shredder tells him, leave me alone. But we do find that Krang's scanner says Leatherhead is in the area, somewhere nearby.
You ever get those alerts?
Yeah, the Leatherhead alerts.
I hope not.
You know it's time to lock the door when that happens. And it's very true, by the way, that the scanner sees Leatherhead because they look a little to the left and boom, there's frogs and turtles and April and a Leatherhead being led by a leash.
What a ridiculous thing you just described.
Well,
oh, man, this episode.
Well, Rocksteady wants to fight him. He's like, should we beat him up, boss? But Shredder says, no, give me a moment. We'll follow him for a bit for some reason. I don't know why, but...
We'll follow this caravan of 400 animals.
Meanwhile, Leatherhead starts complaining and asking to stop because his gator feet are tired.
Which I loved.
And he goes, there's a great spot right over there now under that shade tree.
And they're all just like, okay.
This is great, thank you.
You know who's trustworthy?
Nice.
The evil humanoid gator that we've been tortured by.
They wouldn't have gone if he didn't go, I guarantee. Then that means it is there.
He sounded really comforting when he pointed the tree, and his voice is just, it sounded like the kind of thing you do want to take a nap to. Maybe he'll read to you when you go to bed. I don't know. I bought it. I was like, I would do that.
He does have quite a soothing bedtime voice.
Oh. Well, the frogs are like, gee whiz, that sure is nice of you, Mr. Murderous Gator. And then the group walks over to the spot Leatherhead mentions and they start sinking in the ground. It's quicksand. He knew where the quicksand was.
Yeah, he's seen Beastmaster.
The Cajun monster then begins to cackle and laugh. He says the turtles fell for the oldest trick in the book, which is the old alligator told me to go sit under the tree.
Yeah, it gets the best of us. So this quicksand, that's basically just in movies and TV, right?
Yeah, no, the quicksand is real, but
not like
ever
the
way
like
we
that.
see it.
No.
Yeah.
It's more like soupy, I think.
You usually need ferrets to help get you out of it.
No, again, that's Beastmaster.
Oh.
You need an alligator to help you get out.
That's no less weird.
Well, Shredder pops up while Leatherhead's bragging here, and he's fawning over the gator, and he says, look how smart he is. He tricked those turtles. Everyone is just captivated with Leatherhead, as they should be.
Yeah, we are.
But Leatherhead, unfortunately, didn't account for the fact that he's tied to a rope to which the heroes are holding onto the other end. So April yanks Leatherhead face first into the sinking quicksand, and he's just got his butt and his tail out, and he's kicking his feet.
If you're having trouble, dear listeners, imagining what it looks like, imagine Mork from Ork sitting on a chair.
Well, as Leatherhead snorts and snarls.
And he doesn't stop doing that, by the way, the whole scene.
The turtles are trying to figure out what to do to escape, but then Shredder and company, they actually show up. Rocksteady uses a lasso to pull Leatherhead out that he just happened to have. The gator thanks the villains and says, why for you do this? And Shredder says, let's just say I'm a lover of all wild creatures. To which Leatherhead responds, well, there ain't no creature wilder than old Leatherhead. He's right.
Yeah, and also it really highlights his Ricky Henderson tendency to speak in the third person, which Leatherhead has earned. His stats are right there, too. He's going to make the haul.
A lot of walks, a lot of steals. And by the way, Leatherhead does flex his biceps, much like Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, he can play all three outfield positions if needed.
After Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady leave with Leatherhead, of course leaving the turtles and the frogs and April to die in the quicksand, Napoleon the Frog says, I've got an idea on how to get us out of this mess. And he uses his whip, because his weapon's a whip, to latch on a tree and pulls himself out.
Probably
it's quite
should
easy.
have had that idea right away.
Yeah.
I don't know that this warranted the real heroic do-do-do-do-do-do turtle song kicking in.
No, that should have been when Leatherhead got out.
After escaping the sand, Michelangelo says that the swamp is Scuzz City. I'd like to point that out. April complains about her hair like a woman would. Sexy woman.
I don't think it looked any different.
No, it didn't.
It's the exact same animation.
And then everyone just complains a bit before they stumble across a pond with a bunch of clean water and a big spout, like you'd see in front of like a fancy subdivision. That's there in the swamp. Michelangelo doesn't hesitate. He jumps right in and says the water feels Mondo Bizarro on my shell.
I'm totally getting a big green fucking dick boner in here, guys.
Well, he gets an orange glowy boner because he does actually start to glow. Donatello surmises that there must be some mutagen left in that water. That's what turned Gator into Leatherhead.
This show should never give you even a second of suspense as to what it might be. It's always mutagen.
Know. It's always mutagen. The purple turtle doesn't think the amount of mutagen is enough to do serious harm, and actually it might help his party-heavy friend who's in there right now. And you know what? It just hit me. I bet Andrew WK's favorite turtle is Michelangelo.
Has to be.
He likes to party.
Well, Andrew WK's origin, are you familiar with this?
No.
Mutagen.
Oh, makes sense.
He was playing a show one time. His name at that point was just Andrew. A bunch of mutagen got dumped on him, and he was playing just a bunch of acoustic ballads that you might hear in, like, Bones.
Sure.
Mutagen dumped all over him, all of a sudden party rocker.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They end up marrying Kat Dennings.
Yeah, I always forget about that, but you told me that, and it is true.
Good for them, power couple.
Yeah.
I'd watch them have sex.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you're not going to get that chance every day. So.
No. Andrew WK and Kat Dennings, if you guys are listeners, which maybe, no. But if you are, please send out the cat signal, I guess, Kat Dennings.
Oh, okay.
And let us know, and we'll come watch you have sex.
I mean, we don't know that they're not weird enough to be like, fuck it, let's do it.
They might find that a party-like activity.
This is getting hot, guys. I'm totally into this.
No, that's just because we're in the swamp.
Oh, that makes sense. Also, Katie calls Andrew WK Andrew, and I think it's delightful. I don't know why Andrew is so different than Andrew WK,
well,
but it
that's
is.
Probably what Kat Dennings calls him.
Andrew.
Andrew.
No, I think she calls him Andrew WK every time.
Well, maybe so.
He's got the blood coming down his nose because all the cocaine.
No, he always has that. It's from the mutagen.
The mutagen, in fact, does exactly what Donatello said, and Mikey just goes ham. He's jumping all over the place, saying things like tubular a bunch.
Like he's had a group toot.
A big-time group toot. Don jumps in the water, and he experiences... And Don versus Donatello is a little... I don't know, that's too much. I don't like saying Don.
I feel like maybe our relationship has progressed, and we can call him by a shorter version of his name now.
Yeah, Mike, Don, Leo, the other one.
I think Leo's okay, Raph is okay, Mike's okay, or Mikey. I think Donnie. I don't think you can do Don. Don just doesn't fit for me. Don doesn't do machines.
We can go Donnie.
Donnie's okay.
I think we should get familiar with him, though, so let's go Donnie.
All right, Donnie it is. Do machines all you want, Donnie.
So Donnie gets in there, and he has a go.
Donnie gives it a real run for its money.
Yeah, he experiences the same reinvigorating feeling in that mutagen swamp, and he explains that mutagen, mixing with the water's natural minerals, turned the spring into a modern-day fountain of youth. Upon hearing this, April says, fuck yes.
I'm so old and so gross, and I need to get in there.
Yeah, she says, because of the way American society is, my value's tied up in my looks. Therefore, I'm going to jump right in this shit. It'll clear up a bunch of wrinkles, even though I'm 28
and a cartoon and just a totally idealized version of how someone might look.
Meanwhile, Shredder and his group are wandering around, and the meddled up man says he's thirsty. If only there was something he could have to drink nearby. And then he looks over, and lucky for them, there's that same spring. It's the mutagen spring. So Shredder rushes over to drink some, but much like Donatello stopping April from getting in, Leatherhead snatches Shredder by the shoulder and he slams him into the ground and tells him, hold up. Now, we heard Donatello's explanation for why April shouldn't go in, because a person, they don't know what's going to happen, which I didn't say in the podcast, but that's what he said earlier. Let's go ahead and hear what Leatherhead has to say about the mutagen, why Shredder shouldn't go in.
Hold on! That water no good for drinking. It be full of voodoo magic.
Voodoo magic, guys. Says you can't do it. Can't get in there, Shredder. Voodoo magic's in there. And rightfully, the Shredder goes, huh? He says, what is this nonsense voodoo magic? But before he can finish, we see a stinky substance waft across the screen because we need to see the
Leatherhead
smell.
farted, which would smell horrible.
Smell like gumbo.
He's so big and gator. The other thing about this is it reinforces Leatherhead's heart of gold.
He saved the Shredder. Well, Shredhead sees this wafting substance. He smells it despite his metal mask covering his nose. And he says, what the hell is that? What is it? Rocksteady chimes in and goes, it's probably me and Bebop. We're stinky. Because they probably stink.
Yeah, rhinos, they're always shitting. And those turds are big.
I bet even when they were humans, they stunk too.
Probably.
But they really stink now, particularly Bebop. That's also why I don't like him. He stinks.
Yeah, he looks like he would stink.
Well, he was probably a warthog-style human before he became an official warthog.
Warthog-style human. Define that for me.
You've seen him.
I mean, I've seen it.
You know,
Farting, smelling weird, stomping and snorting in circles.
Gores people occasionally.
Yeah, they're outside nude. I think I might be just thinking of warthogs.
Well, sometimes you're like, my real warthog of a friend.
Yeah.
And you mean him? Of course.
Yeah.
I knew who you meant.
And my cousin was a warthog.
Is a warthog anything like a sweat hog? I had to do it.
A sweat hog
I
is
had to
like,
set you guys up for
it
that.
could be. Like, let's say there's a warthog that's not quite as in shape as Rick Rude, but it has a match with Rick Rude.
That'd be a sweat hog.
Yeah. Rick Rude might call it that.
Shredder finally realizes, though, that stench that he's sniffing, that's mutagen, because he knows the smell of mutagen.
Doesn't know what it is, but he knows the smell of it.
He knows it's mutagen. He tells all of his monster friends, chill out for a second, that's mutagen. I need to think of a way to transport the mutagen-laced water back to Krang at the Technodrome.
Yeah, because Krang's going to want that shit, that freak.
He loves mutagen. They make it there, too, at the Technodrome. That's the mutagen factory. And it has an eyeball on top of it. It's a machine.
Yeah, well, no amount of that shit's going to turn Krang into anything other than a starfish brain.
It's just a big brain with arms.
It's so ugly. Look, I don't want to get all over somebody's appearance here. I know, I'm sure Krang puts in lots of time at the gym or whatever.
Krang's the one to insult, though. I mean, it's just a brain. He's got a face on it. It's not just, it's not just a brain, it's a brain with a face.
Up at the top of that horrible flesh tower thing.
I'll tell you what I don't like. I don't like that he has teeth, but none in the middle.
Yeah,
it's like they all got knocked out in the front and there's teeth on the sides.
They're not functioning teeth. I don't know why you'd want them there other than.
Why aren't they functioning? What do you mean? What are you coming with this? I've seen Krang eat.
I mean, I haven't. And they don't look like they could chew.
They can chew, buddy. They can chew through
This reminds me of the thing I was reading about where someone had a tumor,
about Krang. Mm-hmm.
A tumor that grew teeth. And maybe that's what happened with Krang.
That sounds horrible. But if the DNA's there and it triggers the cells to grow teeth.
Yeah, if the DNA to become a pink brain inside a big, weird, waving flesh tower.
You know what? Fuck it. I saved this for later, but we're doing it right fucking now. The Krang body thing? What the fuck is that?
I don't know.
It's like a baby man, but also a nerd, but also an old man.
It's like if someone left Dauber out.
And he got in the rain too much?
Yeah, and like degraded into some sort of like balloon.
Why did Krang choose that model?
You could do anything, right? And he's clearly rich. He has this big...
Rich?
He's the Technodrome.
He made all his money on the market.
It's a big layer. He has a screen the size of a wall to view swamps at random.
In 1991 or whatever this is, that's true.
I mean, this is a real supervillain, and for his body to the world, not only did he choose some sort of like ugly Bigfoot but shaved thing, he leaves his talking brain that has eyes exposed where you can see it
in the middle.
What's Krang gonna do? Go to the store? You know, like,
with that thing. And it's wearing like a diaper the whole time?
Yeah. I'd like some juicy fruit. What do I look at to talk to? The head up there or the one inside the brain and the open chest cavity?
And it has suspenders, and I don't know why it's dressed like it.
And this is the weirdest thing about all of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It's all weird.
The rest of it is like, oh, kids, animals. You can kind of make the logical leap.
Yeah.
This is hideous. This is like David Cronenberg level visual body horror.
David Cronenberg's Krang.
He did make Crash. He just changed a couple letters.
It fits.
Oh.
Before that, he did have a Mauser body, which was, it had like feet. It looked like an AT-ST from Star Wars.
And I don't know that this one has feet or if its ends just come to a point.
Well, the problem, I was going to say the problem I have with it. I think we've been discussing the problems I have with it.
The problem I have with it is I can't sleep at night anymore.
I don't like looking at it. Its arms are too short.
Yeah.
It's got these tiny little arms, like CeeLo Green's arms.
Yeah.
Have you seen that guy?
Yeah,
he
but
has tiny arms.
The neck of a fat giraffe.
And Bebop goggles for some reason.
And its head also has a bit of a like Neanderthal appearance or something. I don't know. It's a weird thing. Where did he get that?
I'm assuming Dimension X, but I don't know.
Yeah, did he have that custom made? Because that's even worse.
Let's get back to the swamp.
Okay. I mean, we don't actually see Krang again, do we?
No, we'll see him at the end.
Oh, yeah.
One more. Oh, the way you said that. Oh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
remember now.
All right. Great. We'll see him wet, too.
Oh.
All right, look. Leatherhead says, oh, there's somebody coming down the bayou. And Shredder looks over, and it's the turtles and the frogs in April.
It's 40 people and animals.
Donatello asks Michelangelo if he's still feeling the effects of the mutagen water, and the latter says he feels so good that he could tangle with just about anyone right now. And it's a good thing because he's about to tangle with a gator. And not just a gator wearing pants. And that's the worst kind. And a little vest and a little crumpled hat. But just then a fiery laser blast flashes past his turtle face and hits a nearby tree. This then allows the villains to introduce themselves one by one for some reason, instead of continuing attack. Leonardo says, Shredhead and Leatherhead joining forces? And Shredder replies, why not? 2 heads are better than 1. But I don't think the people creating that expression thought metal, Japanese warrior, and alligator.
They were thinking humans.
Probably.
Using functioning brains.
I like Shredder having to defend his decision to work with someone else. Like, why? What's so bad about that?
I suppose even the evil can cooperate.
You think it's a problem when I ask for help. I think it's being manly.
Yeah, exactly.
Real metal men know when to ask for help.
Real metal men. Why is he? Yeah. He should be an animal too, I think.
He's not. I mean, he's an animal, if you know what I mean. He's mean. He bites.
He's a villain.
The turtles tell the bad guys to back off because the good guys have them outnumbered. There's 100 of them. But Rocksteady and Bebop instead start shooting at them with their laser guns, which the turtles don't have. Hiding in nearby bushes, Rasputin the Frog fires a smoke arrow. So see, he has 2 different types of arrows. This goes at the bad guys and says, you can't shoot what you can't see. And the bad guys can't see. But then the wind happens and smoke blows back at the frogs and turtles. And now they can't see.
But Raphael distinctly ordered a no smoking section.
Oh, he said that to the camera.
That was a line where I thought was very Chandler.
In the confusion of all this, the Shredder coughs and he trips over a log while walking backwards, falls into the mutagen water, which he wasn't supposed to. You remember how Donatello stopped April from falling in water and then Leatherhead stopped Shredder? Can't stop him here. He falls in the water. It's a bad time. We see exactly what happens. It turns him to a baby.
Baby.
That's what mutagen does to humans.
Baby Shredder.
And he's still in the armor, but he's a baby.
And he can still talk. He just kind of
He has his brain.
Yeah, and he still has an adult man's voice, too. It's just higher pitched.
Well, the smoke clears and the villains and heroes turn back to stare at Baby Shredder. All of them do. They stop fighting to look at Baby Shredder. I would too. It's like Baby Yoda. It's a Baby Shredder.
Yeah, they seem to be struck by how adorable he is.
Bebop picks the little guy up and he goes, oh, ain't he cute? And then when Shredder complains, Rocksteady asks if he wants him to burp him. Because he's a baby and babies need to be burped.
What do you think this says about the henchman's relationship with their boss? How they treat him when he's a baby? Because it's kind of loving.
It really is.
They could have done whatever they wanted to him once he was a baby.
So there's
but
probably a bit of Stockholm Syndrome there.
yeah, they seem to care about him. I thought it would be like a Space Jam thing where when the monsters that get made really big
Monstars.
at the end when they realize that they're bigger than their mean overseer now, they just beat him up. They're like, oh, we just now realized
we can beat up.
We are stronger than him.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So I thought maybe Bebop and Rocksteady might feel that way, but they're like, nah, this is our boss still. We love him.
But if I ever get bigger than my boss, it's over.
You're going to fuck him up.
That's the problem. The bosses are always so big.
I know.
It's
a
requirement.
problem with America.
To be honest, in the next episode we cover, we see a lot of bosses, and they're pretty big.
They're pretty big, pretty square-shouldered guys.
They're no Casey Jones, but who is?
Oh, I can't. No.
Save it.
I've got a lot
Save
to
it.
say about Casey Jones, and I will say
I
none
have
of
some
it
questions.
now. That's mainly what I have to say.
I do not have answers.
I don't think anyone does.
Leatherhead here takes up the opportunity to snatch up a laser gun, and he stomps over to the turtles saying, maybe Shredder failed, but old Leatherhead won't, I'll guarantee.
But I'll probably just miss on purpose.
But Donatello smacks the gun out of the gator's hands. It flies off into a nearby dam and fires, and then the dam breaks, and water comes
Happens
rushing
all
at
the
him.
time.
When you use your bow staff,
Fighting a gator, gun flies
Mhm.
400 meters a different direction.
blows up a dam.
Yeah.
The turtles, frogs, and April rush out of the way and climb into a tree. Leatherhead's just behind them. Bebop, Rocksteady, and Baby Shredder, though, they get whooshed away by the water. They eventually are pushed back down the same hole that their little drill contraption came out of. Leatherhead is here. He's busy shaking his fists at the heroes up in the tree. And he tells them, you may have won this time, but I'll be back, you betcha.
And when I come back, there's going to be a podcast about that one too, uh-huh.
And then the gator, he stomps off into the wilderness, and that's it. We don't see him anymore this episode. There's a bunch of jokes here that about how everyone thinks Donatello planned to shoot the gun at the dam or whatever. And he goes, oh, yeah, I did plan it, but he didn't.
I don't only just do machines, I do them good.
Back at the Technodrome, Krang's here in his big god-awful body, and he's stomping around.
He's kind of shuffling and oozing around.
He says, hey, where's Shredder? I want that sample. And guess what? He fucking gets that water sample. The pipe opens, and there's and Bebop and Rocksteady and Shredder whoosh through in the water.
Wet, loose brain.
But upon seeing Baby Shredder, Krang is delighted. And he's a little befuddled, but along with the henchmen, he decides to get some digs in, while they can, when he's just a little baby Shredder, which really does infuriate the little guy.
He hates it.
Those little stamping tantrums.
He's just like a real baby.
The turtles and frogs are now saying goodbye to one another, still in the swamp, and Donatello says it's probably best that you keep that mutagen pond a secret. I guess it doesn't go away. Just stays. That's cool.
Mm.
But one frog goes, I already forgot. And then the other frog goes, what'd you forget, Rasputin? Because they're dumb. So they won't remember the pond anyway. Michelangelo says, also, don't you worry about Leatherhead anymore. Well, more like, don't you worry about Leatherhead. We hung him out to dry. But then he gets caught in a snare, and he's hung out to dry.
Because Leatherhead always has the last laugh.
The end.
So anyway, this episode was...
awesome.
Eventful,
This was bizarre.
Yeah. As predicted, this was really fun to talk about.
Yeah, and we've got quite the couple of episodes coming up next time. Again, more Leatherhead, but I was delighted to finally get to talk him. And I don't remember, I wish I could have gone through the catalog to figure out the first time he was mentioned.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably California Dreams right up top. Episode 1.
I do remember what happened is a YouTube video came in my feed, and the YouTube video said, Leatherhead is badass. And I was like, okay, you got my attention.
And you nodded in agreement without even really thinking about it, probably.
Right. But then I watched it, and it was clips from this episode, and I still agree, Leatherhead is badass.
Yeah, he is.
But I'm glad to get him in the history of the show and set him up to be inducted in the Hall of Fame next year.
Which, I mean, he's probably getting in.
So that's going to cover it for this edition of the Ninja Turtles on the Boob Tube Boys. Once again, patreon.com/Bootu Inc. You can subscribe for free. You can leave money. It's up to you. Also visit us at bootuinc.com. YouTube.com/Bootu Inc. We're on Blue Sky. I haven't been doing much, but I will. I'm at Bootu Inc. Brian is.
At Loud Guitar Brian.
Spencer is.
I'm Golden Hat Mick for some reason.
Please give us a review on Apple Podcasts so we can get Leatherhead tattoos.
You guys are going to do that anyway. Yeah, it's happening.
I really would. I'd do it right now.
I would too. I'm not even kidding.
Mm-hmm. So we're going to have to do
Actually,
that
that's
later.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
When I think about it,
it's
like
a fucking gator with a hat on it.
But it's like him laying there and he's got his mouth open and there are birds picking food out of his teeth.
Yeah, it'd be
I'd
awesome.
do that. I don't think he'd chomp those birds. He's a good guy.
Love Leatherhead.
He threatened to chomp them.
Love that Leatherhead.
So as we get out of here, I want you to tell me what your favorite surfer slang would be. Is it cowabunga? Is it radical? What do you think?
It might be tubular.
Ah, God damn it. How can we both say tubular?
We both played a lot of Mario.
That's true. It's got to be that. But no, it's got to be tubular. There's no chance it's anything else.
What's funny is I have it in my notes and I wrote down tubular.
It's the best one of those. Oh, Van, but I have one thing before we go.
Mm-hmm.
If you had to offer me some words of confirmation about the odds that we'll be back to talk about more Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles next week, what might you say?
I might say, I guarantee.